and I think you've all received emails regarding this, that we simply have the park district become part of the city. I mean, if I own this and you own that, and somehow the citizens of this area are taxing, and somehow our taxing bodies are selling things to each other. They claim at reduced costs, but nevertheless, these reduced costs, it doesn't make sense. It sounds like midnight requisitions. I experienced that in the Soviet Union. You have a piece of land, the library would like to build a building on it. They get permission from the park district that they can build on park district land. It sounds strange, getting permission. Now, it's well known that we have something like 7,000 taxing bodies, this being only one of them for the state. I'm not complaining, I'm commenting. Because I'm not suggesting to reduce any of the services that are here. These are something that the people want. Many of them are paying for it. And so, these are my comments. I stabbed in the dark saying 10%. It probably could be 50%, but we have to start somewhere. And that's my beginning, and I think we need this as a discussion item, and I'm very glad. This is just like school board meetings. The whole format looks like it's originating from Springfield. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your comments.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak to the budget? Are there any members of the Board of Commissioners who wish to comment on this document? No one? Let the record show that there were no members of the community or Board of Commissioners other than Mr. Lambert who have chosen to speak to this issue. Executive Director McElroy, are you aware of any written communications that were received relative to the proposed budget?
We have not received any written communication.
Right. Okay. Call for a motion to close the public hearing.
I just have one question.
Sorry, yeah.
I just have one question. With regard to the budget, are we aware of anybody who actually pulled the budget either at the library or at the rec center or West Ridge to review it?
Annette will comment to that.
Yes.
Here at Western, we have heard that 3 or 4 people that know about the budget, they didn't read through in detail. The rec center has indicated that nobody had cause to take a look at the budget. I was unable to reach somebody at the library to confirm, so I'm not sure what that is. I did receive a phone call about the budget that both Liza and I addressed, and that turned out to be a very pleasant conversation, so that person definitely had viewed the budget on the website.
And do we know how many hits on the website?
No, we're unable to track the hits because of it's a PDF document, it's not a link, so we're not able to count it.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion on the motion? If none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Flores-Weiskopf? Aye. Vice President Runtberg?
Aye. Yeah, the motion is carried. The budget is approved. We're going to deviate.
No,
I'm
the
sorry.
public
That is
hearing.
closed.
Public hearing
hearing.
is closed. I
Yeah.
apologize.
It's okay.
All right. This is quite a list. I have to deviate from the order and want to go to check presentation to the Parks Foundation from the Highland Park Figure Skating Club.
Liza, do we have to approve the budget, or is it just closing
No,
up?
Annette's going to do another presentation, so one
Okay.
more time
One more time? Okay, great.
for posterity.
One more time.
One more. Three's a charm,
There you
right?
go.
Name. So this evening we have Julie Clark, who's with us from the Highland Park Figure Skating Club. Over the course of the last month, the club hosted 2 sales of their ice dance competition dresses and used skates. And they have generously decided as a club to donate 20% of the proceeds to our Parks Foundation. So I have Julie here with Chris Malzewski. We were waiting for our foundation president, and I believe he's either stuck in traffic as well. But I was hoping that we could get Terry, who is a liaison for the board, and Lori and our other board members to come up for the official check presentation and photo opportunity for.
Why don't we wait till Brian gets here and maybe, is it Bobby coming?
He was supposed to
Oh.
be on his way, I hope.
Well, if he's
So.
coming, let's just,
I texted him and I.
Let's just push back the picture and see if they come.
Okay, that
Okay.
would be great.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Is that okay?
Is that okay with you?
we're just doing the,
We'll put that on hold too.
we'll put them on hold too. That's fine.
Traffic must be really bad.
Let's do the Park Foundation.
Budget gavel,
I'm sorry?
budget gavel.
Yeah. All right, so, as I said, we do want to wait for President Kaplan. So why don't we go to the consent agenda?
Bernie?
We'll just jump around a little bit.
Additions to the agenda?
You want to do additions to the
Yes,
agenda?
please.
Okay. Are there any additions to the agenda?
We will have an update on the discussion that we had with 112 on Tuesday night.
Okay, thank you.
And we should put that under new business.
All right. I think we'll defer public comment on, for items on the agenda then for a little bit. I think Brian would like to be here for that. Now can we go to the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf? Aye. Vice President Runtberg?
Aye. The motion is carried. Should we go to unfinished business?
Yes.
And we'll get to the other issues. We'll do the unfinished business, and Annette Curtis will to present regarding ordinance 18-05, the tax levy 2018. Or do we have a majority and we could vote on it?
We're good.
Yes. Annette?
Good evening.
Now we can start.
Yeah.
Now we can officially start. What began in November, the levy process, we have finally reached the end of that process. So in November, we passed the Truth and Taxation Resolution, and tonight we're looking towards passing the levy ordinance. It's time to approve Ordinance 1805, the 2018 tax levy to be collected during 2019. The levy request takes into consideration the allowable CPI of 2.1% for cap funds, 4 cents per hundred for the Special Recreation Fund, and of course, new growth. The new growth is estimated by Lake County to be between $18.5 and $19 million. The levy request is 4.26% higher than the previous year's extension, and the total levy requested is $11,661,489. Staff requests that the board pass ordinance 1805, which was in your board packets for everybody's review. And of course, this is a roll call vote.
Of course.
Are there any questions on the levy? I know we've talked about it in multiple times.
Well, is there a motion to approve ordinance 18-05, the 2018 tax levy?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? If none, seeing none,
Commissioner
Please call the
Bernstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf? Aye. Vice President Runtberg?
aye. The motion is carried. We will now proceed to the 2019 Budget and Appropriation Ordinance 18-06.
Okay, thank you. Tonight's budget presentation, it will be providing an overview of the 2019 budget focusing on a few specific areas. Prior to this evening, the budget was reviewed in detail and in depth by the Finance Committee, meeting that was held on October 26th. And then again, it was presented in more detail at the board meeting, or excuse me, at the November workshop meeting for the board's review. So just going through this briefly. And these are some of the areas that we'll be highlighting this evening. And let me begin with some of the opportunities that the Park District is tackling during 2019. Staff is addressing youth programming opportunities through a new staff-led district-wide child enrichment committee. The goal is to create a holistic approach to programming for kindergarten through 8th grade. Through community engagement, research, and discussion with 112, the community is it's been really working at a very fast pace, so we're very excited about what's happening there. To address the slight decline in rental revenue, athletics is developing a field rental strategic plan in conjunction with the sports field master plan that the planning department has been working on. To stay competitive in the shrinking job pool and to provide the community with top-notch employees, and addressing the strategic initiative to be the employer of choice, seasonal wages have increased for camp counselors and lifeguards. The Highland Park Country Club agreements should be finalized in the near future, and staff has accounted for the operations of the Learning Center, the new expenditure splits for the rec center, and the common use areas in the 2019 budget. So that's all been addressed. 4 Track 1 projects have been completed. The rec center, our park and maintenance building, and then Sunset Valley Golf Course. 1 Track 2 project is underway. That's the conversion of the country club. And then planning for ICE, which is also a Track 1 project, is included in the 2019 budget. With all of this activity, the planning department is tackling a refresh of Greenprint to ensure that we continue to meet the community needs as we move forward. And then the most exciting thing we'll be talking about is the opening, or the first full season of the Sunset Valley Golf Course. It is very exciting. So the bottom line, as in previous years and due to a planned use of reserves, the budget reflects a deficit balance. That accumulated reserves in the capital fund are being used for replacement capital. It is not a reflection of overall district operations. I'd like to stress that. It is simply a use of reserves. The bottom line for 2019 is a deficit of $4,650,564. If we were to remove that capital replacement from the conversation and we just focus on operations, the net surplus is close to $2.6 million. I should say the budgeted surplus. So a brief summary. Tax revenue is budgeted to increase by $596,000. We just discussed with the levy. Opening Sunset Valley is increasing operational revenues as well as some of the expenditures. And I would like to note the district-wide, there has been a shift from hiring employees that were categorized as 30 to 39 hours for employees. Impact stops the revolving door, and this is really going to provide a more professional and consistent workforce for the Park District and ultimately the community. With Greenprint's refresh, capital expenditures are decreasing compared to by $1.3 million. So the fund balance, really to summarize and simplify the fund balance, the budgeted fund balance must equal 25% of 25, excuse me, let me start again. To summarize and simplify the fund balance policy, the budgeted fund balance at the end of the year greater than for and special funds. The 2018 budget complies with the policy. Yearly general fund, service retirement of debt certificates. 2 transfers are made to capital, one from the special recreation to support, and one from transfer from capital is $2. And that is slightly higher than previous years. And there's basically 2 reasons for that. There's an increase in our operation golf course. And that revenues by $1.6 million. And then the other side of it is the district is no longer subsidizing the Highland Park Country Club. With the Country Club closing, budgeted expenditures are decreasing from $13 million in 2017 to $12 million in 2019. So we've really done a great job with bringing down those expenditures. And what that does is it frees up dollars to support capital while still staying in compliance with the fund balance policy. So IMRF, the 2019 contribution rate for IMRF is 1.06%. That is the lowest ever. Most agencies are somewhere around 11%. And in 2013, before the board took steps to address the pension liability, the contribution rate was all the way at 13%. So since 2013, the district has seen a savings of roughly $3.7 million because of that funding. I would also like to note that our yearly pension obligations are always met. We never defer anything. And as a result, at December 31st, 2017, which is the most recent actuarial valuation, the date, the district's pension plan was overfunded at 117%. And I expect in 2018, the year end here, to have remained overfunded well over 100%. So on the financial statements at 12/31/2017, it's recorded as a net pension asset. So turning to operations, the next 2 slides summarize the net surplus or deficit by the different centers of operation. In addition to some of the points I've already discussed, I would like to point out that even with the program and rental challenges mentioned earlier, total revenue is budgeted to exceed projected 2018 by about 10% or $1.5 million. And again, Sunset Valley is our largest contributor. Planning and budgeting with safety is a top priority. Operations at the Hidden Creek Aqua Park, the rec centers, indoor pool, and the swimming side of Rosewood Beach will now be overseen by an aquatic manager, providing consistency across those lines of operations. Rosewood Interpretive Center is planning for its best season yet. And beginning in 2019, dredging for Park Avenue will be accounted for under operations. And that is a $35 million expenditure. So some of
No,
35,000.
million?
Million?
1,000.
You said 35 million.
Oh, that would be really bad.
That
That would be bad.
So how are we going to balance it?
How am I going to balance it? We're trying to save money everywhere we can. No, it is a $35,000 expenditure, and I even wrote 1,000. That's funny. It used to be accounted for in the capital, but we really are trying to match our revenue with our expenditures at the center level. So we've moved it to there so we can keep an eye on the operational costs of Park Avenue.
By the way, I was going to let her slide on that, Barney. I wasn't going to call her out on it.
No, you shouldn't let me slide on that. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. The Recreation Center Administration Center, which is the first one on this slide, it always shows a deficit balance because so much of the overhead is accounted for there, but it is always offset by the next 2 centers, which is the fitness and aquatics area. The increased deficit is directly related to the Highland Park Country Club agreements and the new splits between the overhead of the utilities and the maintenance. The previous splits were 50-50, and now it is an 80-20 split. Deer Creek continues to be a revenue-generating facility, and its operations are very much in line with previous years. And then on the bottom, the Highland Park Country Club building, this is where we're accounting for our common area expenditures, which will be reimbursed for the city, so it's always going to have a bottom line of 0. So, Sunset Valley, very excited that we'll have our first full year of operations, and it truly is one of the best golf courses on the North Shore, and it is budgeted to have a surplus of $149,000. Revenue is generated through greens fees and cart rentals, building rentals, pro shop sales concession, and then the North Shore Amateur Open. Expenditures include both the pro shop and the grounds department. Okay, capital. During 2019, planning will be working on refreshing the green print, the lakefront master plan, and the sports field master plan, along with 2 green print projects, the conversion of the course and the first steps of the the Centennial Lobby and gymnastics renovation. So there is a lot going on. With all that going on, the capital budget includes a long list of replacement items. Majority of them are listed there. A couple that I left off because I just ran out of room was asphalt work at a few of the community parks, as well as some outdoor basketball court work at a few of the parks. Again, those are kind of standard replacement maintenance things that are based on a schedule. We'll be addressing the sand filter at the Aqua Park, and that's what I have listed. And then our debt obligations, because the 2019 budget does not include the issuance of any additional debt, I've left the slide to the end. Just as a reminder, the district has 2 debt certificates and 2 general obligation bonds. The board has taken the approach of just in time, as we've been referring to it as, and that is only issuing bonds when needed to support the green print projects. The district has this approach provides the ability to reevaluate needs on a yearly basis, and the potential issuance of debt in the future will be taken into consideration with the green print refresh. So more to follow on that topic. So I've already mentioned that we have had 1 or 2 questions about the budget, so I was happy to hear that, actually, that people are looking at the budget and reading it online. It will remain online, but it will not remain at the other facilities. It will remain at the library. And once again, I just have to say this again to the board, I really have to thank staff. They really are very dedicated through the budget process. It starts for them in August. It ends with me tonight, but they really are looking at everything, not just the revenue coming in, but where the revenue is coming in and how we are allocating our expenditures and truly what our needs are, and trying to stay very community focused and engaged to provide the community with the best service possible. So I really have a huge appreciation for the work that they are doing for you. Do we have any questions on the budget?
No, I do have a comment on the slide before, the fact of the interest rate being 2 to 3% range is a great reflection on our AAA rating.
Yes, I did not mention it, but we have maintained our AAA rating, and every time that we issue, though we haven't done it very often, but when a bond issuance goes out, we have ourselves reevaluated again. It's part of our bonding process, so, yes.
I'm just a couple comments. I know that we've spent many hours reviewing this through the Finance Committee and also workshop meetings. We spent a lot of time on this document. It's something that the board can be very proud of, and thank you for staff to produce a budget that is fiscally prudent. I'm looking forward to a couple things. There's a couple things that are going to impact the district that we have not, going forward, that we've not seen in the past. The first is really how the impact of the vesting of the Highland Park Country Club, how that impacts the district going forward. As Annette touched on, there'll be a significant saving, a significant amount of less of expenditures as a result of divesting the Park District of the expense of the country club and especially the clubhouse. In addition, on the other hand, we're anticipating a significant amount of increased revenue from the golf course after now that it has debuted this year, and now next year is the first full year. So I'm anticipating seeing how those numbers actually come in as we operate the course for the first time in its renovated state. And lastly, I do want to. I can't emphasize this enough, is the fact of the matter is you read all the time about how taxing bodies are struggling with their pension obligation, and this is one taxing body that is not. And that we have taken the steps over the years to ensure that our pension obligations are funded and that we are fully funded. And as a result of that, what was the figure, 3-point-something?
$3.75
That's
million
as a result
savings.
as a result of the actions this board took several years ago to make the tough decisions and actually fund the outstanding pension obligation, that we have saved the taxpayers $3.7 million as a result of that action. So that's something this board can be proud of, and this can be something that the staff can be very proud of because they're the ones who recommended it to us. So thank you very much. So that's all I have to say. I look forward to approving it, and I look forward to seeing how it's implemented. And next year, if I'm here, then we'll address and see how those two variables, how that really impacted the budget.
Okay, anyone else? Do we have a pending motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Is there a motion to approve budget and appropriation ordinances 18-06 for a period beginning January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Kathy?
Commissioner Bernstein.
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf.
Aye.
Vice President Ruttenberg.
Aye.
President Kaplan.
Aye. Motion carried. Next, we have approval of the amended November 5th, 2018 workshop meeting minutes.
So in front of you are the minutes from the November 5th, 2018 workshop meeting that were amended on page 3. After action from closed session, there was discussion regarding the Albion project in Highland Park. I do want to note that Commissioner Bernstein had recused himself from that discussion, and he returned before the adjournment of the meeting. So that discussion was added to the minutes because it was inadvertently left off the original minutes, and also noted that Commissioner Bernstein had returned after having left.
And I just want to note that I will abstain since I was not a part of that. If I was not in the meeting then, so I will abstain as to if the board so choose to approve those minutes.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the November 5th, 2018 workshop meeting minutes as amended? So moved. Second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Kathy, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Grossberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf.
Aye.
Vice President Ruttenberg.
Aye.
President Kaplan.
Aye, motion carries.
We'll note you for abstaining.
Annette, where did you go? Come back, please. Treasurer's report.
Oh, I left the sheet back there. I'm sorry. Okay. Your treasury report was in the board packet, so I hope everybody had a chance to glance through it. The projected 2018 financials were presented at the September board meeting, and I'd just like to update that a little bit. As of November 30th, so the treasurer's report that you're reviewing tonight, the year-to-date revenue actually surpassed our projections by $50,000, and we still have another month to go, so I was very excited about that. I think that this has to do with under-projections in tax revenue and then interest earned on our investments. So when you look at that treasurer's report, I just really would like to note that expenditures continue to lag behind budget, and that's really just a timing thing. I know you've heard me discuss that before. As we move into the new year, expenditures will be allocated to the proper period, and so that year-to-date expenditures will continue to increase a little bit and close the gap between budget to actual. Just some odds and ends to note. The 2019 camp registration began on December 5th, and as of this morning, I double-checked, and camp registration is slightly ahead of 2018 by 13 enrollments, so that's good to know. Seems like our camp brochure was phenomenal, and it seems like it has been, kudos to, and it seems like it has been very well received by the community, so that's good. Principal and 6-month interest payments for the debt certificates and the bond payments totaled $2.7 million, and they were made on December 10th, meeting our December 15th deadline. And then we have begun implementation of our new payroll system, and if everything goes as planned, the first payroll run will be at the end of March, so we're very excited about that. And then Monday of next week, I'll be meeting with the auditors to begin planning the 2018 audit. We're back there again, with the board presentation scheduled for May 2019. So. And then tonight, bills and payroll disbursements authorized by the Finance Committee, and then checks written from November 9th through December 7th are presented for the board as approval. They total $1,652,446.
And I have reviewed them. And
Thank
they're
you.
consistent with our policies and our
Thank you.
reports.
Yeah, there wasn't anything out of the ordinary in them. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now to new business. We will skip A for now. And go to B, a Parks Foundation update. Terry Grossberg and Lori Flores Weisskopf to present.
Thank you, President Kaplan. And I know we're going to hear from the skating club later, but in advance of that, I still want to thank you for doing that. It was an unexpected surprise that we just learned about at our last meeting. The minutes I have here actually reflect the meeting we had a couple of weeks before, and if I think of anything that happened just at our most recent meeting just on Tuesday, I'll try to add it to it. We just brought in our final totals from the First on the Turf. That was our opening day golf session. We netted an $8,211 profit. The proceeds will be divided between youth golf and the Smile program. So we ended up transferring from the foundation, and it's basically its second year, but its first year really humming, $28,000 to the Smile program plus as a result of the proceeds from the Champions Banquet, the Firecracker 5K, Fourth Fest, and the First on the Turf golf tournament. Let's see. We've updated some of our fundraising goals. We did, and this is an update, we did get our first grant. There are some codicils to that. There's some, but right now, Yay awarded us a $3,000 grant to help with arts. So that was very exciting. One of our board members has been working very hard. She's not a natural grant writer, but she's been doing her best. And we're making our way through that process and learning where we need to sort of change the sort of things we're asking for and where we're squarely on the target. So the next championships banquet, speaking of that, will be held May 21st of 2019. And Chris, do you want to announce who the... Okay. So may he live and be well. Mike Ditka is going to be our guest speaker at the May 21st.
It's the coach.
The coach.
Okay.
And we're very excited. I thought Ozzie Guillen might be, a little bit out there, but coach is going to be amazing. So many more details to follow for that.
Those beer sweaters.
Right, and the fake mustache.
Yeah, right.
So that's real exciting. So thank Chris Malzewski and our planning committee for securing him and for the exciting changes that we'll have to make this an amazing event in May. Let's see. We are participating once again in the Martin Luther King's Day of Service. That's January 21st, 2019. One of our foundation members paints a lot of kindness rocks sort of thing, and then kids can come to our table and decorate them, and we can tell people about our mission at the Parks Foundation. This is a great, I'm seeing several new faces here, a great time to just push out the fact that we are always looking for dedicated people that want to help us out. We have a great board of dedicated people that are smart and savvy, and we're looking for anybody, especially from the senior population or people with very young children or no children, to get your impressions and opinions on our board. And that's really it.
Thank you.
All right, sure.
Okay, director's report. Oh,
Let's do the check.
let's do the check presentation. Parks Foundation Pond Park Figure Skating Club, Liz. And I passed it because I thought Ruthie wanted to be here
Yes,
for
and I do apologize. Bob was not able to make it,
Okay.
at least so far, so.
You don't have
might-
to walk in right when you're done.
Probably. So, we have Julie Clark with us today from the Highland Park Figure Skating Club, and she is here to present a check for $1,172. It's 20% of proceeds from a recent resale of the skating competition dresses and used skates that the club held over the course of the last month. So we're going to invite Julie and Chris to come up and join the board for a photo opportunity for the
Come on,
check
Julie.
presentation.
I think that,
It's a big check.
Where do you want us?
So if you could just kind of gather in the front here, and then we'll,
check.
Chris, if you want to take the check, or Julie.
Big check.
Go have fun.
routing numbers on it.
I just can't forget.
Great. Phone camera.
You're the foundation.
Never lay down in front of me.
All right.
Where to?
Yeah.
I'm coming in right here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay, everybody smile. All right.
Where do we look? I never know.
That's the rail tail.
Okay, one more. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Julie.
that. Julie, thank you. Great job.
I was looking right at the whale's tail. That's a good place to look at. Yeah.
Okay. We'll go back a step before you go. Someone here. Well, I can't find it, but Tuesday night, Barney and I met with District 112.
Wait, wait.
Before you go, I'm recusing myself with regard to this
you're right.
matter, so.
Sorry, Commissioner Morrison. I found it.
In the old days, he'd be going out for a beer.
Is this under director?
Yeah, but now he's got to come back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's new business. It's in
So I think the
addition.
record needs to show
Oh.
that Cal
Yes.
Bernstein has
Has left the room.
left the room.
Okay, so Tuesday night, I think it was Tuesday night, Vice President Ruttenberg and I met with Mike Lubefeld, Eric Ephraim, and Bennett Lasko to discuss our shared use of the Kennedy School property, or I guess we still call it Kennedy School. Their plans to lease it to the community nursery school. We also discussed their plans or their desires to potentially trade properties with us and or sell Olson. We had a fruitful discussion. I will let Barney discuss, discussed.
No, she,
For for purposes of tonight, what I told the school was that not the school, I apologize, what I told District 112 was that we will hold off any discussion until we get a site plan and we have the site plan vetted by our staff so that we can have a fruitful and meaningful discussion. But I wanted everybody to know what the conversation was and what took place that night. And I'll let Vice President Ruttenberg finish.
Well, I think that you've summarized basically what we did. We were surprised by the state of the progress that was made by the school and District 112, and it was coming up for a vote at the school board meeting next week, and we were a little bit caught off guard because we were concerned about the impact on our Kennedy Park facility, and we did not, by the way, ask the school district not to vote on the lease. We left the meeting saying that we would obviously need to talk and consider it further, but we didn't come to any conclusion one way or the other. And I think that is where we left the meeting.
And the last thing we did talk about was they haven't seen a site plan, so they didn't know exactly where the proposed school would be placed. Something that I had mentioned was potentially if it goes and if we agree to it and after we talk about it, if this is the best place for it, is setting the school back on, I guess I put on weight, setting the school back on our half of the property, because part of the issue that I had with it was the loss of green space and having two schools up on the sidewalk, so to speak, and putting our park behind, and I didn't know what that would do to ingress and egress to our park or our playground. So something we had talked about that I thought about was maybe putting the second facility farther back if it gets to that point, setting it back and having the open space and the fields in front of the school so it could be used and seen and enjoyed by the community as opposed to hidden behind the second school. But that's far down the road, but I wanted you guys to know in case it ever came up that I did say that and I did mention that. I don't want anybody to be shocked or surprised by it.
yeah, and we also talked about the option of the west side of the park as well,
I was going to add, that's right,
So,
possibly.
back or west,
But
so
we
it's
were
just not
handicapped,
next to it.
Liza, you're right. And we were saying we were handicapped because we didn't have a site plan. And we didn't know the impact, we didn't know the siting of the property or where things were going. So we felt that we were in no position to comment beyond that.
And, we didn't give an opinion one way or the other. I think we need to have a board opinion, and we'll have a board opinion after we do our due diligence and move forward on it. So that was our Tuesday night meeting. As it pertains to Olson, the school district has talked about potentially selling some of their property, some of their land. As you guys know, we share Olson Park with them. You stand in the middle and look west, it's their property. You look east, it's our property. We had talked about potential land swaps or purchasing it. Those were options that would be discussed in the future, and that's about as far as we got with that conversation. So that was our Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Okay. Next. Yes, there will be an opportunity for public comment. But we're not going to have any discussion until we have some information more than.
I'm not proposing to discuss the site plan, et cetera, but I do want to address you about the point of clarification.
Okay. And there will be a chance, and you will get full opportunity, I promise. Director's report, Liza?
I am actually going to have a couple of our staff provide a few updates, and then I'll wrap it up with some of the holiday stuff.
Wait, are we going to talk about the Albion?
Yes.
Okay, and then
Oh, yeah,
we
we
got
ne-
to remember Commissioner Bernstein's somewhere down the hall.
He's also recusing himself from this conversation,
Right.
so we need
Let's
to
talk
remember
about
to
the
bring
LBM
him back. So that's
Then we
a
can get
good.
Cal back.
I'm going to ask Jeff Smith to come up and give the board the latest update on activity at the development that's immediately east of Sunset Park, formerly known as the Albion at Highland Park.
And I apologize, I need a quick moment to bring up.
Oh,
You decided not to comment.
Jeff is pulling up the most recent site plan that we received from the developer, so he can just talk about a couple of things that we discussed with them when we met with them, as we have done on a few occasions.
All right, thank you. Yeah, like Liza said, we've spoken about this before. We now have a site plan, so I just wanted to address it briefly.
Excuse me, for those who don't know, why don't you give us, we're calling it the Albion. I'm not sure everybody knows what that means.
Right. So the site we're talking about, the building you see in the center there is going to be a residential facility. It's going to be apartments, condos, and
Where Carger is now.
that is correct. So if you see the building in the center, just to the left of it, that is our Sunset Woods Park, and the portion of that building will sit on the area where Carger Center is right now, and a portion of it is parking lot as well. So with this building going in, I just want to point out a couple things. You'll see kind of a darker path along the bottom of the building and along the far right side. That'll be a pedestrian pathway that's going to go in. You'll see it connects to the far end of Sunset Woods Park, and it's going to create connectivity to Green Bay and also to Central Avenue. And that's connections right now that we don't have in the same sense. Now, on the far left of the building, it's hard to see from the picture, but that's right at the property line for the Park District. And a small portion of the Park District's property actually has the parking lot that's there on it. And so that portion of the parking lot will be removed. And then also the city's Firehouse Youth Center stands on Park District property. That's going to be demolished as part of this project. And as part of this project, those areas are going to be restored. They'll be planted. And then also on the Sunset Woods property, there you'll see a notation where there's a bridge. That bridge currently exists, and the path terminates at the parking lot. And so with the parking lot removed, the path kind of goes nowhere. And so that path is going to be connected down south to that kind of hub where there's an existing path along Sunset Woods Park. And then lastly, that area that's kind of encompassed by the triangle of paths there is a natural area. And we're also asking that that area be restored. It would be involving removing invasive species in that area and cleaning all that up. And I have one more slide that I wanted to show too. I apologize, but can you? Oh, no, it's not a mouse challenge here. All right, so. This is just to give a better understanding of what I just explained. So the area that's highlighted in green is the natural area I spoke of that would be restored. The area in blue is Park District property that will be, the parking lot will be removed and the building, which is the firehouse, will be demolished. And that area will be regraded and reseeded and planted as well.
So when you talked about, I'm sorry, were you done?
No, that's,
I
yeah.
apologize. I got a couple questions. The building itself will not in any way affect our use of Sunset Park? When I say ours, I mean our user group.
Yeah, we don't anticipate any impact on the use of the
And
park.
do we anticipate any impact or any effect on our programming?
No.
And when you talked about planting, so the health building's coming down?
No, I'm sorry. In this image, you'll see on the far right is the Carger Center. The building I think you're speaking of is to the right of that. That's staying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but when you talked about planting and restoring, are we doing that, or is the
No, it would not be the park district, it'd be part of the project.
Part of the project. And part of the project is signage and paths.
There are paths. There is a path that's going to lead to Central and another pathway that's going to Green Bay. I'm not sure on what the signage will be as part of that.
Okay.
The one thing that we should note also is that when we talked about this actually at the November 5th workshop meeting, because that was the date, that the developers had come back to us because they were they're asking the city for a variance for the property. It was originally 15 feet from our property, and that changed to 5 feet. So this new drawing, the site plan depicts the setback, but the scale, it's tough with the scale. So obviously the building is now coming closer to the park, but the good news for the park district is that we sort of have a natural buffer
There's
zone.
a 100-yard buffer there, right?
Yeah, say it again?
That's the area in green you're talking
Yeah.
about. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. This area here, this is not open space. Well, it's open space, but it's not really programmed space in the park. It's more of a natural area, so it's a pretty significant buffer between the building
Can
and the
I-
paths.
Oh, sorry.
So I was just going to say that, they're going from 15 to 5 feet, but I think,
It doesn't
and,
affect our usage
Right.
or our programming.
no, and as I say, we discussed this at the November meeting, and then we've probably had 3 or 4 meetings with the developer, the planning team, and myself, so they've been good communicators and are working with us certainly on the landscaping and the restoration plan, which is important to us.
Okay.
So,
Terry?
yeah, thank you. So just so I have this straight, toggling between the two pictures, the new building would take up all of Carger and the rest of that parking lot, or how much of the?
Is the new building what's shown in blue?
No, the new building's not on here, but
The new building is, the blue is
if
the
you can follow the mouse
firehouse.
here, I'll do my best to show
Yeah.
where the building's
Okay,
going to
I
be.
understand.
It's, as Liza said, it'll be 5 foot from this line here, this blue and green line,
Mhm.
and it'll run about here. And I know I'm not getting it exactly correct, but along here, near the front of Carger, and it'll be through the parking lot here.
Yeah, got it. Okay, and so, and we are we concerned that the buffer, the natural buffer, is enough to handle any kind of runoff so that it doesn't affect, like you said, our programming, our softball field, our baseball field, or anything else that's in that southeast corner of the park or anything like that?
I think I can answer
Right.
the question. The water runoff has to be contained within the new building. It's not going to flow outside of the property line any more than it does now.
Okay, so there's no impact.
There should be no
There
impact.
should be no impact.
Okay. Yeah, so, and as I understand it, the blue is the current firehouse and the parking lot that we own. Is the rest of the property,
We don't,
right? The
whoa,
blue,
whoa, 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 we don't own that. That's a city property.
the firehouse is on city property?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
we
No,
own the
it's-
land,
we
the
own
city
the-
owns the
That's what I'm
building.
saying.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so then the rest of the stuff that's not outlined in green or blue is city property, right?
Oh, to the right of everything.
To the right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have much of a say of what gets done there, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Wait,
No.
so I'm clear, so the blue, so the firehouse, we own the property, right? And what's gonna happen to that property?
The reason that area, so the blue and the green areas are both Park District property. The reason that the blue area is highlighted different than the green is because if you notice, it's not a natural area. They're gonna pull up the parking lot, they're gonna demolish a building. So we've just notated that that area is gonna be replanted.
So it will become green space.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna lose parking on that side?
That parking lot is no longer gonna be available.
Okay, and then, so I understand this, other than, So what happens when we have our events, like maybe Fourth Fest, and where residents supposed to park, and how do we, how does this structure this, I didn't realize that Yeah, for example, what happens to Fourth Fest?
So
That's
you're-
really when I think of people coming from all
Sure.
directions, from
Yeah.
the parade and coming from all around. So-
You're correct that the parking that's been there in the past won't be available, but one thing we are actually looking forward to is the fact that pedestrian paths that I mentioned, people will be able to come from downtown much more safely. There'll be a path from Green Bay and also from Central. You can go back to the other. And so if people, they may have to park a little further, but if they're parking other parts, they'll still be able to enter the park, and that's here. There's the one on the far right, the path that goes to Green Bay, and then the one down to Central.
I'll just, building on Lori's comment, that concerns me a little bit. Honestly, when I go there, it's usually pretty hot, and people are toting kids and wagons and things like that. And for us to ask them to go a little farther, there is an inconvenience there.
Well, that's
in
our
my mind.
biggest, that's our biggest community event that we throw, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Fourth Fest?
The developers are.
Give me a second, Keith.
Okay.
I can't see it anyway.
Jeff, help me here, please.
Yes.
On this drawing, there's parking shown in this drawing.
Which
Park-
one are you looking at?
The one that's on the screen.
It should be on your screen as well.
The parking that's shown on this drawing is public parking to service the health center. And so the parking that's here would be available for people going at Fourth Fest, I assume. This is a question I'm asking.
Yes, you're correct. It
On the
would be
new
less.
path that's being created, as opposed to the kind of weed-over path that we have now. So
And is
this
it-
would, so the parking that's here is public parking that would be available for the Fourth Fest.
And that's the.
And it looks to be the same
Look,
number.
look at the drawing, look on your, I'll come over and show
It
you.
looks to be the same number of spots as we would be losing.
Wasn't that always there? And this is our parking, or this is for the building? Public parking?
Public.
How many spots is it?
24.
24? Yes, 24?
But I don't know.
Well, I want to know.
That was
Is it
my,
24 and what was it, and what is it going to be? I'm fine with this, I just, it's not supposed to impact our,
can you answer that, Keith?
Hi, I'm Keith Jacobs, part of the development team of the Albie and Jacobs crew. I can answer a bunch of your questions, and I think it'll make it really easy. First of all, not 5 feet from the property, we're 10, so we've pushed the building back. You're correct, we are restoring everything. We've been working with the Park District to tell us what you would like, how you want to restore it, and additionally cleaning up that area of the green. Can we go back to the other slide?
It was a buck filling.
Buckthorn.
And by cleaning it up, just very quickly, just addressing that, is that going to be a kind of a sunny area, or is it going to be try to
They're gonna
match what?
replant.
We're gonna do whatever you direct us to do.
Rebecca Drill will be working with them in
Exactly.
a restoration to naturalized area.
As far as the parking goes, we have 47 spaces that are above grade. Our building's fully parked underground. Those 47 spots, especially for the Fourth Fest, are going to be what we call flex spaces. We've already discussed this with the health center and with our developer partner. Those spots will be available for the use of residents and guests coming to Fourth Fest. Don't forget, additionally, across the street, you have a huge garage that's very underused for additional parking, and we're adding these paths with pedestrian timers coming across Green Bay to make the access even that much easier for everybody who wants to come and visit the park. Fortunately, what we've also done is made an agreement with Sunset, where we're going to have connectivity to Central from this property, so now you're going to have both access from Green Bay and Central, and yes, there will be signage, directional signage showing how everybody can get into the park. So I hope that answers all your,
Is that pathway from Central, is that just east of that whole mall where the athletic?
I don't know how to do
I
it.
think it's-
No, I mean, I'm wondering where they're going to creating it. Right, that's why I want to know where they're creating it.
On the Sunset property.
How do you get to the other screen? My kids aren't here, I'm helpless.
Yeah.
My,
So where,
my kids would just laugh at me.
where precisely is that?
The path's coming down from the stoplight that's already at Renaissance.
Yeah, no, I meant from Central.
From Central,
Yeah.
it's gonna be coming straight through. We're creating a access roadway from Sunset.
So you're taking some space from the parking lot of Sunset?
Correct.
Got it. That's
Right,
what I
where
was.
their curb cut is now is what we're gonna keep.
Right, that's an elevated area, is that right? I'm just trying to picture it.
Well, the grade changes
Yeah.
about 15 or
Yeah.
16 feet from Green Bay
Right,
down to the
right,
bottom. Correct.
Okay, okay, cool. Oh, and so what were you saying about, other than with Sunset, you're saying that you have an agreement to do this?
Correct.
What are their feelings going to be about people parking there?
And-
Has that been discussed? for this?
People from whom?
People parking there and then coming to these events or coming to the park?
It's our property. So they'll be parking on our property along with the health center's parking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I have to interrupt. You said, so all the parking, again, looking at that screen, I don't know where your property line is. So the parking that's shown there at grade is on your property then?
All of this is on our property, part of the development.
And so you have some type of agreement with the health center for parking?
Correct.
Is that an agreement that we can get also?
I'm sure you will as soon as the development agreement's finalized, but that will be
No,
incorporated.
isn't that a private agreement? I'll ask our city council representative.
What was your question? Sorry, I'm sorry.
To get advantage of having access to the parking, just like the health center does, for our park patrons, for our events. You know, the concern of several of the commissioners is parking is being taken away. But I'm hearing there's surface parking, and it's flex space being used for a lot of purposes, which I understand. And there's obviously some type of understanding agreement with the health center so that they can utilize the parking.
I think it'll be in the developer agreement.
And
Uh,
so
the
we'd want to
shared
be,
parking.
we'd want to have the same rights, I think.
You'd want to have the same rights as the health center.
Well, people are going to want to look for parking,
Right.
and if it's quasi-public parking, which is the word I'm using, I just would like to make sure that we're part of the quasi.
So,
We can talk to Gita about that. I think part of the equation that you may not be factoring, I think there's already an agreement with the health center for some of those parking, which is why it's being included in the development agreement. But we can find out. for
We'd
sure
like to
on
understand that.
Absolutely.
And I think that would address a couple of the commissioners'
Yeah.
concerns. Sorry.
Otherwise, I'm sure if you reach out to Gita, she can tell you what you have and what was there before as well.
Sure will.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
That was good.
Thanks for hearing us.
That was really helpful. I just would like to acknowledge the gentleman here who told to not.
I thought of the same thing.
And I think we should have given you that opportunity, because it is helpful at the time that it's happening. So I just want to acknowledge, thank you for waiting.
Before and after school program,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that would be you.
That would be Brian Romes. Brian Romes is going to do back-to-back before and after school, brief update and strategic plan, brief update.
B to
And-
B,
Yep.
B to B by B.
What's that?
B to B, back by B.
Back to back by Brian. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is a really quick update on District 112 request for proposals for the before and after care program. They released a request for proposals on October 25th to operate their before and after care program. We did submit a proposal to provide services at all of the District 112 schools. We turned that in on November 29th. From what we understand, there have been a variety of proposals as well, about 9. And we have an interview with the school district next week, at which time we will obviously do our best to be convincing that we would be the best partner for this program at the school districts, especially since we currently share the same customer base. So the before and after care program at the school district is set to begin in fall 2019. So does anybody have any questions about that at this point?
You'll have your meeting with District 112 and then report back to us?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay.
Strategic plan update.
Thank you. All right. So next, I'd like to update you on our strategic plan, which was a board approved. Do I do this, Dan? Okay. All right then. Do I got to open it, or is it?
It's open on the bottom right.
It's open on the bottom. Perfect. Very short visual to go along with some of these updates. So this is a park board approved document that was approved in 2016. It's a 5-year strategic plan that is effective 2016 to 2020. I just want to give you a brief update on our progress, a little bit of background on the strategic plan. It is an internal document that basically sets a roadmap for staff on priorities over the next or over a 3 to 5 year period, this one being between 2016 and 2020. It is obviously a fluid document that we update annually based on the changing needs of the community and the district. So a couple things here. As far as the purpose of the plan, what it intends to do is to establish priorities that set future direction for district-wide growth. It aligns staff's efforts with identified internal and external needs. It incorporates both the residents and staff feedback into future planning. Obviously, we try to drive innovation, so we are always relevant in our offerings, and it promotes growth and development for staff and strengthens culture and develops strategic approaches to our infrastructure and capital needs. So it is based off of a framework that addresses our 4 key business perspectives, which are listed in front of you. We address the customer, our customer base, our finances, our internal operations, and our staff learning and growth. So we work with all the staff. We use resident data from our green print as well as from our advisory groups and current survey responses. And we basically developed a series of strategic themes, strategic initiatives, objectives, and action items to be accomplished over the next or over a 5-year period to be completed by 2020. So I did provide you with a couple things. There is a document here which outlines our strategic plan, and then there's also a matrix here that shows progress on all of our specific action items. There are numerous pages here, and I must say that even though I'm reporting on this, obviously this is a major district-wide effort. All staff, all full-time staff are involved with the implementation of our strategic plan, the setting of the initiatives, objectives, and completing them. All of our department heads actually lead committees made up of all full-time staff, and they're responsible for assigning responsibilities and then being accountable for reporting on those on a regular basis. So tonight I'm going to give you just a few of the highlights, certainly not all of them. Obviously, the past few years have been very focused on projects, construction of buildings with Pogo, Sunset Valley Golf Clubhouse, and the golf course. But while all those things have been going on, operations obviously have continued, and staff has been working very diligently on our strategic plan and all of these initiatives. So these up here are our strategic themes. We seek to maximize the customer experience. We obviously seek sustained financial health, operational excellence, and a unified and engaged work culture. So again, I'm just going to kind of go through some of these highlights over the past few years. We've, from a customer standpoint, obviously focused on maximizing the customer experience. Annette already touched on some of these in our for the budget report, talking about how we have a strong focus on analyzing our internal and external competition, specifically with District 112 taking over kindergarten. We've put together a committee specifically organized to address kindergarten, but K through 5 as well, and did a lot of outreach with parents of the community. We're doing that right now, analyzing our district-wide trends at all our facilities and doing some research with other organizations in the community who provide like programs and services to see how we can certainly differentiate from those. Also, we've developed a customer service philosophy that we're going to sort of unveil in 2019 with an effort to make sure that we're being consistent throughout all of our facilities in creating not just first impressions and last impressions, but what we like to call lasting impressions, so they keep coming back to our facilities and our programs. Governmental partners, obviously we're always working with our partners, as we just mentioned, School District 112. We put together an RFP, a proposal to do the before and after care program. And then community engagement, we are always looking for new ways to engage with the community, to get feedback. We recently added open houses at each of our facilities. We've done outreach for the Lakefront Master Plan. We've formed an advisory group for the Highland Park Country Club property. All the while, we still meet with our youth baseball advisory group as well as our golf advisory group.
Brian, would you just touch on, please, what you guys did at the rec center this week? Because this was something new.
Yeah.
Because we've tried to have some of the open houses here for the parents of the kids in our early childhood programs and our youth programs, and so they had a new plan that they executed.
Well, we did do a couple things. We had open houses. We actually had a focus group, and then we actually sent out a survey. We had pretty good responses, but we wanted some more in-depth responses. So we set up a table at the rec center during peak time in the morning, as well as Centennial Ice in the afternoon thus far, and we're soliciting feedback from our residents as they're in the facilities and asking for 5 minutes of their time to give us feedback on what are their kids doing right now after school? If they're not with the Park District, where are they? What are they doing? What's important to them? How can we best serve their needs? And it was really successful. I mean, there was a line of people actually waiting to stop and give some feedback, so it was actually really neat to see. We're going to be at the rec center this Saturday as well, and then we're going to reach out to the library and see if maybe we could possibly do some non-Park District facility outreach and talk to some community members and find out what are your feelings about, enrichment and recreation in the community, and how can we better serve those needs? So that's what we've been doing with that. Regarding financial health, as we like to call it, with the district, we've created some key performance indicators, and we're hoping that these will provide some specific results as to how successful we are with our strategic initiatives as they relate to finances, operations, programs, and services. We also, obviously, Terry just gave an update regarding the Parks Foundation. So that was an initiative to actually get the district to approve and adopt that Parks Foundation, which has been raising additional funds for our scholarship program for families in financial needs. So that's been great, as well as our sponsorship program. We have done a great job. In fact, Chris Malzewski's here. He oversees the sponsorship program, and we've had some great success with First on the Turf, Splash into Camp, and Fourth Fest. Also, our Green Committee has been working on sustainability efforts and putting some practices into our purchasing manual, as well as making recommendations on green products and monitoring energy usage at our facilities and looking for ways to reduce. And we look at internal operations. When we strive for operational excellence, we also, I think Annette mentioned, our part-time staffing has been a struggle for us over the past few years. So staff has worked very hard to address staffing needs through the development of an employee recruitment and marketing strategy, an effort to attract and retain employees, and our goal is to be the employer of choice. We hired a recruitment coordinator to work with our marketing department to improve recruitment materials, pamphlets, and online materials. We created an ambassador program for employees that provides some unique benefits, and we've worked with Highland Park and Deerfield High Schools doing some on-site recruitment, as well as working with the athletic departments on getting some staff. Also, we've increased attracting internships with the Park District. Our marketing department has consistently had an intern over the past 3 years, our rec department, as well as our natural areas. So we're going to continue to focus on bringing in college students for internship opportunities. Annette also mentioned our payroll employee management system we evaluated this past year, and they have recommended to have a new software. In our registration software, RecTrack, we continue to make improvements to our standard operating procedures and conduct district-wide training and actively participate in user group trainings to stay on the cutting edge of registration technologies. So, lastly, staff learning and growth. We're striving for, obviously, a unified and engaged work culture. We've developed some core competencies that correlate with all of our job descriptions to make sure that we're providing some training opportunities that correlate with those core competencies. This past year, we did a very in-depth leadership training with Franklin Covey Group, where we had a series of trainings throughout the year, and we actually had a consultant come in and help us with some teamwork, communication, and trust-building activities. And then finally, all the staff participated in a 360 assessment in which they had their peers, their direct reports, and their supervisors assess their leadership skills, and everybody created some implementation plans to continue to improve themselves as leaders within the organization and in the community. So, as you can see, we've been pretty busy with a lot of these initiatives. Just highlighted some of them for you this evening. If there's any questions at any point, certainly can ask if you have any. Moving forward, obviously we're going to review objectives and action items for 2019 and 2020. Likely in 2020 we will begin a new strategic plan process, but overall it's been a very useful document for the Park District to make sure we are staying on task with priorities and what's relevant to the needs of the community and to the staff, and making sure that we're delivering quality programs and services, being financially responsible, and having, obviously, good operations and attracting talented employees. So that is my report on the strategic plan, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, you have materials here.
Anybody have any questions?
I just have a really quick one.
Sure.
Is the assessment of your employees tied to this document? In other words, do these work synergistically together to...
Not necessarily. I would say that it's only tied to it in the fact that it was an action item based on an objective to complete the 360 assessment. That's what you're talking about? I'm not sure. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, in other words, you have sort of, in the education business, we call them standards, and that's the big ones, and the strands. That's all the little ones underneath it. And so you've got it. I mean, this is a beautiful document. I mean, it's just really effective. And I was just wondering if this is the way you evaluate your employees based on their
I understand what you're
within this
asking.
document.
Yes, we have incorporated a lot of these initiatives into like our annual appraisals. Yes, yes. So I think going forward, when I talked a little bit about the key performance indicators, that's a new thing. Well, it's a new way for us to continue to evaluate how effective we are in implementing the strategic plan initiatives and the impact that they make through the employees and for the district. So I think, yes, these are in our annual appraisals as far as how are you impacting the strategic plan, and it will continue to be. So.
Okay, no, it's a powerful document. I like it.
Thank you. Great. And it was a huge step effort, obviously.
Yeah, thank you, Brian.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional board comments? We're at the time where it's open to the public to address the board. Is anyone else outside of the community school going to address the board tonight? Want to recuse yourself?
They're talking about the...
I'm going to assume they are.
Okay, then I'll leave.
That's why I asked for other comments first.
Thank you very much. My name's David Meek. I'm an attorney, and I have been representing Highland Park Community Nursery School in their efforts to develop a plan for relocating when the Carter Center closes. And what I'm here to do is just to get some clarification on the meeting that occurred with Mrs. Ruttenberg and Kaplan the other night with the school district. Mr. Kaplan, I understand you said that you did not ask the school district to delay their vote on the ground lease.
I did not know.
Okay. So we got a communication from the school district's attorney saying that as a courtesy to you that they would be delaying that. And that's, of course, on them to decide whether to have that as an agenda action item. But we also understand today that the district is waiting to hear from you from tonight's meeting about whether they decide to put us on the agenda for their meeting. So if you, and I'd be happy to talk further about this, but if you would be so kind as to communicate with the district that you have no objections to them having us as the ground lease on the agenda for next week, we would greatly appreciate that. And I do want to spend a minute, if you will let me, to explain to you why that's imperative for us. And actually, before I do that, let me just say that we would love to be in conversation with you about our site plan. We had, as you know, had some efforts to talk with the Park District about various options for us, if there were any, with Park District lands. There weren't, and then this opportunity came to us, and we did have a meeting. I think there were some conversations, and we had a meeting with Ms. McElroy. We did show her our conceptual site plan at that time, which we've been refining, and we did offer to come to a workshop meeting, and in fact, we were supposed to come on December 4th. We had to take ourselves off that agenda because the school district didn't want us going public. And we, when we were working on a ground lease, and they bifurcated the question of the rent from the question of the lease terms. And so last month they met and discussed the rent, and now we're supposed to go and talk about the ground lease. The terms of the ground lease have been negotiated, and we're hoping for a favorable vote. We would have been willing and happy to meet with you on the 4th. And I think I had to wait until the 3rd to let Liza know that we couldn't come. That said, we would like to move forward with the ground lease, and there's a number of reasons why we just need to do that to try to stay on the calendar that we need in order to try to make our very tight deadline of being open July 1st. And just so you understand, the community has state contracts to provide services. It also has grants. It is contractually obligated to stay open 49 weeks of the year. And we cannot shut down for the summer. We need to be able to move forward. We have an opportunity. It's very tight. We've tried to work out a time frame by which we can do this. But the necessity of the ground lease is to allow us to have owner authorization to proceed with some things. That's including filing for petitions, but it's also including filing for requests for construction grants from the Illinois Facilities Fund, and to get in their calendar and get good interest rates and get in front of them so that we can then engage, and we know this will happen before building permits are due, but we need to engage general contractor to try to get some crews held and available for us in the spring, because we need to have site work and foundation done in the spring with a chance to bring our building to fruition, constructed, moved in, and then licensing reviews from the state. So there's a lot of moving parts, and all we're trying to get is the ground lease so we can start some of those moving parts. The planning process will proceed, and we will be glad to talk with you about that. We have to look at this site as a hard site right now. We've invested a lot of time and money in it, but I think there's some things we can do with it in response to some of your questions and concerns. And just so you know, right now, we are just trying to use one half, closest to Lutz, the other half to be open. We're trying to do a very respective landscaping design that would be open areas. We'd like to be able to have public use of lands and add a tot lot that you don't currently have right there, walking trails. These are some of the things that we showed to Liza when we met in October. So, long way of saying, if you would please communicate, if it's your, I would hope you could decide that you could communicate to the district that you don't want to stand in the way of their taking a vote, an up or down vote on our ground lease at their meeting next week.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, that was long-winded, but there's a lot of
Quite
elements to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
You're asking for anybody else from the audience who would like
Would
to
do-
speak to this?
Yes.
Is there anybody from the community that'd like to speak to this? I just want to make sure.
Anyone else was open-ended? David, is it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions for me? Or?
Oh, so, okay, so is that true? They will, what are our next steps? Is asking, what are we supposed to get back to the school district?
As I said earlier, our next steps would have been to have gotten a site plan so that we could have an intelligent conversation about it. We will discuss it in closed, because it's the acquisition of land. And we will discuss our meeting last night as well.
And if I didn't say it, we felt hamstrung in not being able to be public about this. So we would have come to the workshop, and that's a public meeting, and we couldn't until the direction we got was we couldn't until we had a ground lease.
And we felt uncomfortable knowing some things about it and not being able to go public, and that was part of the reason why we asked District 112 to come here Tuesday night.
Right.
That was the third component of our conversation with them.
Mm-hmm.
I was not comfortable knowing more than I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been asked not to share by a variety of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, did you bring a copy of the site plan?
I do have a copy of the site plan. Yeah.
Might be helpful. if
Could you
we-
leave it for us?
Yeah. I will.
We can get it back to you, but
I will.
at least we can talk about something.
Right.
Not
And
in
frankly,
the
if you want me to
abstract.
hang around after the meeting and meet with one of you at a time, not violating open meetings, I'd be happy to.
No, we're not
tell you
comfortable
that.
with that.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Fair enough.
and that was what we had said initially. You guys had to present it to us
Mhm.
because we want everything up.
Okay.
And if you'd like to present the site plan, this would be a good time to do it.
Why don't you leave it?
Yeah, let me leave it. Let me
Why
leave
don't
it.
you leave
But
it,
we
and
will
we'll-
absolutely have a conversation with you, and you know, with you, with respect to obviously the understanding of impacts on your programming, your property interests there, and of course there is the general city planning process, and we have no certainty of getting this approved. It goes through a city review process, and our
Believe me,
design is
we
what we'd like to see, but we don't know.
We understand the process.
Yeah.
Better
Yeah,
than,
yeah.
better than we want to. We
Right,
understand.
right,
We
right.
understand dealing with the city.
Right.
You said that nicely.
Council members.
You could have said it nicer.
Thank you, too.
All right.
You were a joy.
As were you, sir.
Okay, now you love each other, let's keep on the target.
Okay.
All right, now what?
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to address the board?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record and your
Use the
address.
microphones or speak up. It's extremely difficult to hear you back here. And it's very hard.
Okay.
Talking and we can't hear a thing.
These aren't for sound.
No, they're
This
just
is
for
for the
recording.
recording.
They're for recording. They're
Mrs. Bernstein, we will take into consideration,
Yes.
and from now on speak in a loud projecting voice.
No, just hold your chins up and stop talking to your bellies.
Should we do what Garrett Morris used to do in the news tonight?
I'm watching you do it.
Oh,
Jeez.
Who's that woman?
You guys just
Your
got
point is
trouble.
well taken.
yes.
They
Okay.
are mumblers. I hear that. They need a teacher projection voice.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Terry, I wish you wouldn't talk like that.
Can I get a motion to go into closed section pursuant to the following sections of the Open Meeting Act? Section 2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline of the district, including legal counsel for the district. Section 2C5, the purchase or lease of real estate, including discussion and whether a certain parcel of property should be acquired. And Section 2C29 for discussions between internal or external auditors and the board. Possible action by the board on items discussed in closed section.
Did you mention personnel?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear you. You were mumbling?
I tried not to look into my chin, but I mentioned personnel.
I so move.
Can I get a second?
So moved. Second.
Kathy?
Commissioner Bernstein.
Aye.
Commissioner Grossberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Flores Weisskopf.
Aye.
Vice President Rundberg.
Aye.
President Kaplan.
Aye. show that the meeting adjourned at 7:34.
Went to
and
closed
we are
session.
No, we're adjourning into closed session.
Into closed session at 7:34.